Welcome to part 7 of the 4L60E slash 700R4 transmission rebuild. In the last video we left off installing the overrunning clutch spring assembly. So I got a lovely assistant to help me out in that because I did not want to buy the special tool. The special tool, it involves a press and I don't have one of those. So one of us was holding down the spring while the other one was installing a snap ring. And it worked out really well. So my camera wasn't rolling in installing the overrunning clutch and forward clutch assembly, so sorry about that, but I missed it. What you see me doing now is installing the forward clutches and steels. So just alternate between, first put in the wavy plate, then alternate between steel and clutch. So the steel's attached to the outer housing and the clutch is spline to the inner gear. Just alternate back and forth.
And then I like when I substitute the third, yeah, get it wrong. The sun dial.
There we go. Okay.
Sun gear.
And then
It looks like a sun.
it does. It's in the, and it's
Then install the pressure plate on top.
That's why they call it that.
That is not like that is. I thought maybe. It was
And then finally the snap ring to hold it all in place.
Well, I always think.
Yes.
Now we are going to check the clearances under the snap ring, or the clearance under the snap ring. The spec for this is between 30 and 63 thousandths of an inch. So just get out your feeler gauges and find out if it's in spec. Next, I'm pointing to that little leg. It has to be, that leg has to go into the little slots on the side where the holes are. It can only really go in one way. So now, now I'm just going through the holes to check if the legs, or the notches rather, are all seated where they're supposed to be. And it all looks good. So now I'm going to install the 3/4 apply clutches and steels. Again, just alternate between clutch and steel. You should soak these clutches in oil. It's not 100% required with nowadays transmissions, but it is recommended to soak the clutches in oil beforehand. Oil meaning transmission fluid. And there's the pressure plate on top, and now we're just gonna put the snap ring in. This particular unit does not have boost springs. Many of the units have boost springs in this in the 3/4 clutch, and so just install them if your unit has them. Some don't. This one does not. There we go. Now we're checking the clearances for the 3/4 clutch, and the spec for this is between 35 thousandths and 83 thousandths of an inch. I didn't have feeler gauges that go up that high, so we just stacked two on top of each other. Now we're going to air check the assembly. We're going to check the 3/4 clutch, the forward clutch, and the overrunning clutch.
If I actually look, I'm pretty sure it'll.
Ooh.
You can see it. press.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So just make sure that the pistons apply. When you check the overrunning clutch, you have to cover up a hole in order to make the piston not leak, because what happens is the air blows by the forward clutch lip seals and exits out the forward clutch feed hole. So in order to test the overrunning clutch, you have to apply air to the overrunning clutch, put your finger over the forward clutch feed hole, and always do it like 4 or 5 times to make sure it's really applying, because sometimes if the lip seals aren't, maybe you damage them, they will be intermittent in working. And you want to find that out before you put the transmission together. So now I'm taking off the sealing rings on the input drum assembly. I only took off 3 in here because I didn't realize that there were 4. I just skipped one. So we'll finish this up in the next video, those sealing rings. For now, we're going to move on to the reverse input drum, and we're going to remove the bushing, one of the bushings. The other bushing we're going to get to in the next video because it had some complications. So just take a punch and hit the bushing out without hitting the side of the wall. And there it is. Next we're going to remove the reaction carrier shaft bushings. There's 2 of them. Again, same thing, take a punch and just punch out the bushing. This is not the best way to remove these. You can get, so after the bushing, clean the surface of where the bushing goes before you put the new one in. And then I'm going to lube up the surface of the bushing and the shaft. I'm not sure if I show it, but I did lube every time you put in the bushing, lube the surface of the bushing, if you're going to do it this way, because this way is kind of the hack way, because as I was saying earlier, the best way would be to get a bushing driver and a press. That would be the best way. You even don't even need a press, you just need a bushing driver. Sockets work really well. Find a socket that's the same diameter as the bushing, and it works really well. Here I'm just taking apart this assembly because it'll be easier to work with in terms of getting the bushings in and out. So I'm measuring how far down the bushing is from the top, and I'm putting a mark. It's best to use, normally I use a caliper. I didn't have it though, so I just marked the feeler gauge, and now I'm just going to hammer out the bushing. Again, a bushing driver would be the best for this. And there it is. Just clean the surface of where the bushing goes. Maybe take some emery cloth, get in there. Install the new bushing. I use a piece of wood to get it flush first, because that's the easiest way. You're going to see me do that a lot, is I use a piece of wood to get it flush. And then when it needs to go deeper, I'll either take the old bushing or a socket and just hammer it down and periodically check with my feeler gauge that I indexed before, what I'm doing right now, to see if it's the same depth down. And now I'm just going to put the whole assembly back together and put the snap ring back on. That's it for this video. Go to part 8.